The city of Portland, Oregon, woke up beneath a gentle layer of mist on a cool spring morning. Claire Thompson zipped her jacket and tightened her scarf as she crossed the downtown bridge on her way to the library where she worked part-time while finishing her final semester at Portland State University. She had always loved the city, its mixture of quiet neighborhoods, lively cafes, and the way rain seemed to wash everything clean. But beneath her calm routine lay a story she hadn't shared with many people, a story that felt like an untold chapter of her life. Claire had grown up in Eugene, a smaller city just 2 hours south. Her father, a schoolteacher, and her mother, a nurse, had instilled in her the value of resilience and compassion. She carried those lessons with her as she moved away for school, determined to build a future in social sciences and community advocacy. But life had a way of surprising her, and in Portland, she met someone who would forever alter her journey: Jacob Harris. Jacob was originally from Denver, Colorado. He had come to Portland after earning a fellowship in environmental studies, passionate about preserving forests and rivers. They first met in the university cafe when Claire spilled coffee across her notes during a frantic morning of studying. Jacob had been at the next table, and without hesitation, he handed her extra napkins and cracked a gentle joke to ease her embarrassment. "Looks like your notes are absorbing caffeine faster than you are," he said with a grin. Claire laughed nervously but appreciated his kindness. "Guess that's one way to make them stick in my memory." From that small moment, something began to take root. At first, it was nothing more than the occasional conversation between classes. They would run into each other at the library or in the park across from campus, where Jacob liked to read beneath the wide branches of an old oak tree. The conversations were easy, filled with curiosity about each other's lives. Jacob told her about Denver, the mountains, the clear skies, the hikes with his younger cousins. Claire shared stories of Eugene, the weekends at the farmer's market with her mom, and her dream of someday working with community youth programs. What bonded them most was their shared belief that the world could be better if people cared enough to make it so. As weeks passed, they found themselves becoming inseparable. Jacob often joined Claire at the library when she worked late shifts, helping her stack books or sharing quiet moments of study. Claire, in turn, accompanied Jacob to local environmental rallies and weekend cleanup events along the Willamette River. Neither of them called it friendship or anything else. They just knew that being together brought a sense of calm, like missing puzzle pieces finding their fit. Yet, beneath the joy, both carried unspoken burdens. Claire still carried scars from losing her grandmother, the person who had always been her source of encouragement. Jacob, on the other hand, quietly struggled with self-doubt about whether he was truly making an impact in his field. These were parts of themselves they rarely shared with others, but slowly, through patience and trust, they began to open up. One evening, as the rain tapped against the windows of the university library, Jacob closed his book and looked across at Claire. "You ever feel like there are parts of your life no one really knows?" he asked. Claire tilted her head, surprised by the question. "All the time. I call them my untold chapters. Things I don't put in papers, don't share on social media, sometimes don't even talk about with my family." Jacob leaned back, thoughtful. "Yeah, same here. But I think maybe some chapters aren't meant to stay untold forever. Maybe they're waiting for the right person to listen." Claire's heart swelled at the sincerity in his voice. She nodded softly. "Maybe you're right." That conversation marked a turning point. From then on, their talks went deeper, about fears, failures, and hopes. Claire spoke about her grandmother and how her loss left a gap that books and busy schedules couldn't fill. Jacob admitted that he often felt invisible in his field, overshadowed by louder voices, even though he poured everything he had into his research. Through those late-night talks and quiet confessions, they both realized that their untold chapters didn't have to stay hidden. They could be shared, honored, and even healed when carried together. Their bond grew stronger, not through grand gestures, but through consistency. When Claire's thesis deadlines loomed, Jacob brought her coffee and encouraged her to take breaks. When Jacob organized a tree planting project in Forest Park, Claire was the first to volunteer. They didn't promise each other forever or make dramatic declarations. Instead, They lived each day with kindness and loyalty, weaving their lives together one page at a time. The biggest test came during the winter storm of that year. Portland was hit with an unusual heavy snow that shut down roads and left neighborhoods stranded. Claire was stuck at the library when the power went out, and she worried about how to get home. Hours later, she heard hurried footsteps crunching in the snow outside. The doors opened, and there stood Jacob, bundled in layers, his cheeks red from the cold. "I figured you'd still be here," he said, holding up a thermos. "Hot cocoa delivery service." Tears filled Claire's eyes, not from the storm, but from the simple reminder that she wasn't alone, that someone saw her, cared enough to show up. That night, as they sat in the quiet library sipping cocoa, surrounded by the muffled silence of snow, Claire realized that the untold chapters of her life were no longer just hers. They were part of something bigger, something they were writing together. By spring, the storm was just a memory, but the changes it brought remained. Jacob's fellowship ended, but he decided to stay in Portland, accepting a position with a local nonprofit. Claire graduated and began working at a community youth center, fulfilling her dream. They never labeled what they had because it didn't need a label. It was trust. It was companionship. It was the promise that no matter where life took them, they would carry each other's stories. Years later, when Claire looked back, she didn't measure her life in grades, jobs, or achievements. She remembered the laughter in the cafe, the talks beneath the oak tree, the snowstorm cocoa, and the countless ways Jacob had helped her uncover the chapters she thought would remain untold. The city changed around them, seasons came and went, but their story endured, proof that sometimes the most meaningful parts of life aren't the ones written in textbooks or celebrated in headlines. They are the chapters shared quietly, courageously, between two people who choose to understand each other. And so, the untold chapter of them wasn't really untold anymore. It was alive, carried in every moment, every memory, every tomorrow they stepped into together.